wanted to just take a second and talk about a few points that in my years of experience, now 25 years of dancing and traveling all over the country and the world, things that at beginner levels make the look totally comfortable and complete. And if you just practice a few of these things, your skills will go up dramatically. First thing, keeping your feet connected to the floor. Very important. And I know we've talked about it in terms of some of the base techniques, but keeping your feet connected to the floor, that when you move forward, keep your foot moving along the floor. When you move to the side, keep your toes in contact with the floor. When brushing your feet, close. When doing something like a promenade, that you make sure you brush your feet on a twinkle and close your feet. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second. And that when you walk with the heel, make sure you start that heel coming under your body so that it becomes a heel as your toe is brushing along the floor. A little point like that can make a huge difference. Closing the feet, very, very important point that makes some dancers look fantastic and make others look just very mediocre. It's more than just cosmetics because it's, number one, about balance. For example, we'll use the waltz box. I go on to 2 of the waltz. Now, 2 at this point represents a pendulum. And you understand what a pendulum is. I'll use my arm as one. My shoulder is a fixed point and my hand is moving underneath it. At the peak, that point, it is both the end of one swing and the beginning of the other. It is a fixed point in space. That is the point at 2, or the transition between 2 and 3, if we want to really get into it, is up the same point in space. Now that may not seem that important to you, but when I change weight from 2 to 3, at that moment, when I'm complete 2 to 3, that is one fixed point in space. It's not moving anymore. So when I close my foot, I'm not only just closing my feet generically, I'm passing the weight from one foot so that the other foot can take over. And that weight shouldn't be moving at that point. So the closer I can get my feet together, the better balanced I am, and the more accurately I have portrayed a pendulum swing. Now, what is closing the feet? Well, if you take a look at your legs in the mirror and you went straight, now I've got kind of blousy pants, so that's not easy to see, but I am not bow-legged in the least. I'm pretty straight in the legs. If I were bow-legged, my knees would be going like that, and I'm certainly not knock-kneed. But most people, on average, straight legs, there would be a gap at your knees when your legs are straight. If I bring my knees forward to the point where my heels come off the floor and I feel my weight go in front of the balls of my feet, that is where we stand when we're on the toe or the up position. We're not on the tiptoe and we're not on the ball. We're in front of the balls of the feet. But to continue with that thought, when my legs are straight and I'm up on my toes, my knees don't come close together. My feet have closed, but my legs have not. When I allow my knees to go forward slightly to where my heels are off the floor and I'm in the front of the balls of the feet, with my knees forward, my legs are closed, my knees are closed, my thighs are closed, my ankles are closed, and my feet are closed. This is where we go when we rise. We don't rise to straight legs. We rise to the front of the ball of the feet with the knees bent forward. So I'm always asked, how much do we rise? How much do we lower? This is very difficult to say in terms of the lowering, but it's very easy to say in terms of the rise. To the point where we're in front of the balls of the feet with the heels off the floor and the knees and the thighs and the ankles can close and touch. That is the peak. So when I rise and close my feet, I want to close my legs. I want to close my legs and pass the weight from one point to the other. Now, once we have closed, again, we're talking about a little bit about footwork, and I lower, I want to feel 2 heels coming towards the floor. 2 heels coming towards the floor. Then if I'm going to go backwards, I start to slide my foot out behind me till it becomes a toe, and then I can move. Or if I'm going forward, I bring 2 heels to the floor. I slide my foot out from under my body till it becomes heel, and then I can walk onto it. This is a point of tidiness that totally separates so to speak, the men from the boys. But if you can practice that, rising on the toes and keeping your knees close together and closing your legs and feet, and then lowering 2 knees and 2 heels together, you'll be very, very tidy. Which brings me to the next point, which is a chassé, which we haven't used. But I'm going to just talk about that real briefly. A chassé is when we syncopate. And we do a side, close, side. So this is a chassé. Side, close, side. We do this in a syncopation in the waltz, and we didn't get to talk about that. The count would be 1, 2, and 3. We close our feet while moving and then open the feet. Well, when we open, this is the point I wanted to talk about here at the finer points. I stay at the same level, close, open, and then I lower and move across. So that's a little bit of a point that I just kind of wanted to drift into, because we're going to get into that heavily in the silver level tape or the intermediate tape. But I just wanted to talk about how the rise and the closing of the feet relate to the syncopated chassé movement. All right, that pretty much ties things in a knot. We're going to come back and talk to you a little bit about tango.